I'm Anna Webb. Welcome to A Dog's Life. Hey, Mr. Binks, you know how much I love photography, especially photography about dogs. Well, that's why I was delighted to be invited by the Kennel Club to attend their showcase where dogs were photographed by Rankin himself. And at that gallery, I met up with Aurélie Four, who is the owner of the very famous Marcel Le Corgi, but she is now commissionable to take photographs of your dog. Gosh, well, I'm really excited because I'm in a cafe on the King's Road, having just been to the amazing photo exhibition by Rankin in aid of several charities called Dogs with Jobs, an event hosted by the Kennel Club. And I've bumped into Aurélie Four, who's happy to jump on now and have a chat about this showcase, but also about corgis and indeed about her own photography. Aurélie, welcome to A Dog's Life.
Hi Anna, it's lovely to see you again.
It's so much fun. And how much fun was it in the Saatchi Gallery?
It was very, very fun. Also very tempting to say hello to the dogs, but obviously with them being working dogs, you had to ask to pet them, and some of them were very happy to be. So it was very exciting, especially as Marcel, my own dog, is a therapy dog, therapy visiting dog himself.
Marcel has really, become an ambassador really for corgis, hasn't he?
Yes, I suppose, yes.
Well, he's done a lot. I mean, he is a therapy dog, but you've broken boundaries and taken him all over the place. I know you've got a trip to America coming up, but you've travelled around Europe with him and, you've captured it all because you are also a photographer.
That's correct. So I've always loved photography, and when Marcel joined the family, and I've loved travel as well, so when Marcel joined us on our journey, I didn't want to compromise between, what I love and him and traveling and photography. So I just got it all together, and that's what I'm doing now.
And how old is Marcel now?
Marcel is 10 years old.
And this is something that I love talking about because, dogs are a journey, dogs define chapters. And by the age of 10, that will really resonate with you, does it?
It does very much. So it's a big part, obviously, 10 years of, life together. It's a huge part of the family and life as well, and our lives as well.
And of course, as we all get older, we all get a bit stiffer. Everything's a bit more creaky. Your energy gets a bit less, and this is something I'm going through at the moment with my own little Mr. Binks, who's 12 next month. And I don't like it. I mean, this morning only I had a panic, so I don't want him to die.
It's the same for me, I suppose, and Marcel's had some health issues in the past couple of years, especially, which are breed related, but also age related. And that just makes you realize that they are getting older and how important they are to us. But it's also very, I often say actually, dogs are great for your morale, for your, to calm you down, but they're also, when they become ill and older, it's pretty much it can have the effect the other way around. My anxiety has been quite triggered by his health issues and worrying about him.
Yeah, I can relate, totally. I mean, it is interesting. Yes, dogs are our stress busters, but they do cause us a lot of worry as well. Even when they're young, because you're training them and you might have issues to work through. I mean, how was Marcel as a puppy?
He was a very mellow, so I often say, compared to other corgis and the breed in general, of what they're known, their traits, he's actually a very mellow dog. He's always been very active, though, because we are active, I guess. The dog mirrors your own energy. I often joke that thankfully he took his temperament from his dad, who's the mellow one, rather than from me. Otherwise, he would have been crazy, I think. But he was lovely. He was a bit tricky to train because corgis are like that. But also with patience and consistency, it's just it's worked out.
Yeah, he's lovely. I love Marcel. I've been honoured to meet him. And I remember we did have a chat once about feeding, didn't we, and about diet. And I'm just so pleased that you do now feed Marcel on a raw, balanced, complete, species-appropriate diet. Mm-hmm. And how's that going?
That's so this is something that we've done for years now, and it was with his health in mind, and we were trying to deal with issues which I did a lot of personal research on nutrition because it was a bit hard to talk to our vets about that. And I just figured we did a lot of trial and error, and then I just figured that raw feeding was the best solution for us. And I'm not saying it's the one for everyone, but it is the best solution for us. And it's not the most practical, it's not the cheapest option, but it does mean, in hindsight, that he goes to the vets less. Obviously now he's got some health issues that are not related to the feeding, the way he's being fed. There are things that the breed is prone to, unfortunately. But with the raw feeding, I've found that we are way less at the vets for issues with digestion or illnesses and things like that, besides the breed-specific ones. So it's helped quite a lot. Keep the vet away, I suppose. I don't know. So we have a slogan that says raw feeding keeps like an apple a day for humans, keeps the vet away. I don't know.
Well, yes, I believe in that totally, absolutely. Well, it's not got any inflammation in it, you see. That's the thing. So many processed foods have a lot of hidden sugars and starches, just as they do in human processed food. And once you eliminate all of that, you can keep inflammation, which is the root of all disease, hopefully at bay. But explain a bit more, though, about training Marcel to fly, because that's one thing I've never done with my dogs, taken them on an aeroplane.
So he's actually been on an aeroplane 3 times now, and he's about to go for a 4th time very soon, in a few weeks' time. Always in the cabin, that's something I'm very big on. I personally wouldn't fly my dog in a cargo hold. I feel like it would be too much stress for him and for us. I wouldn't fly him in a cargo hold for just a holiday, especially obviously in some cases, in some circumstances you have to when you're relocating, but I wouldn't. So he's been trained to be settled. It's not really, there wasn't really much proper training. There was kind of getting him used to things, and that especially, and being calm, because it's very important. Being settled in a crate trained, but like always in a positive way. But yeah.
No, that's good. It's so important, actually. But I always say, crate training is often the key to so much else. That once you've crate trained your dog, then obviously transferring, settling for 8 hours or whatever to do a long flight is going to be very easy for your dog to adapt to. And also, of course, if your dog has to spend a night or 2 at a vet's, then they will be in a crate. So to crate train is such a good idea.
It's a very important. So interestingly enough, and in France especially, there's a very negative connotation when you talk about crate training, when it's actually a very useful, very important tool, like you just said. And I often argue about that because it's not a prison. I think people, because there is a lot of humanizing of dogs, they see that as a prison. But if it's used properly, if they're introduced to it gradually in a positive manner, it's an amazing tool, like you said, and we've had that before. Emergency vet stays, you're adding to the stress of them feeling unwell and being away from you. You're adding the stress of them being locked in a crate and not being used to it. Whereas, you obviously can't take the stress away from them being away and them being unwell, but you can have them trained so that at least they're not having that added stress. And the same way you're traveling, to keep them safe as well sometimes. It was very useful when he was younger, and we weren't able to watch him like a hawk, because young dogs just get themselves into a lot of trouble, and we literally puppy-proofed the house, child-proofed the house, but that wasn't enough. He actually got hold of a cable. It was an internet cable, so there was no electricity, but so it's a very important tool. And in France there's lots of negative connotations, especially in here as well. I suppose people are like, ooh, and I'm like, well, no, actually, it's very. Think about it.
No, absolutely. I mean, the crate thing was quite new, and when I got Molly in 2002, my first miniature bull terrier, I was like, a crate? What's this? because that's about the time the whole crate thing came over. And I wasn't sure at all. I bought a crate, and Moz was so adaptable, though. She was fine. I just went in it. There was no hoo-ha or anything, and every dog's an individual on it. But then latterly, over the last 20 years, I've really seen why they can be useful. And now, especially in travelling in a car, it's mandatory to have your dog either in a pet carrier, a crate, or a secure seatbelt. So, otherwise you can be fined something like £5,000. So there is that safety angle in travelling as well. So I think they're great. No, so well done on standing your ground on that as well as on feeding raw, Aurélie. But going back to the brilliant exhibition we've just seen, go on, tell us your thoughts.
I just loved it. Obviously, there's a special interest to me because of the photography aspect of things, and I do specialize in photography for people who love dogs. Because I find that usually people who treat them like family they're fairly decent people usually, and so there's this interest. I love Rankin's work. Dogs, obviously, dogs with a job, which Marcel is a therapy dog. We've been volunteering at a local hospital for the past 6 years now. So it was very lovely, and to have the people there with their dogs, to be able to meet them, talk to them, pet the ones that we were allowed to pet, the ones that weren't working today. It was very lovely. And he's obviously a very talented photographer, so very inspiring as well.
Yes, no, absolutely, and a great dog lover. I did have a quick chat with him, actually, and he told me I think he's got 4 dogs at the moment. Yeah, they're all rescue, and was very, very passionate about this project. And I think it's great also, the Kennel Club showcasing how dogs can have jobs, because if we go back to the olden days, all dogs had a job. I mean, Marcel would have been in a field with loads of cows herding them up, wouldn't he?
Right, yes, he's corgis being both breeds of corgis, because they are actually 2 breeds, being working dogs and cattle herders. So they're working dogs, and I feel like even nowadays, again, people, I guess, humanizing them or seeing them as, I don't know how to explain that, but anyway, they do, or originally a lot of them were working, and so they need a job, and that job can be being a therapy dog, having something to do at home. It doesn't need to be working, but it just keeps them busy, because keeping their mind busy is just as important as keeping them physically busy, exercised. It's probably actually even more important as the dog is, like Marcel, is getting older, because they can't do as much physically, but they can still, stimulate their mental, their brains, and so it's very important. And I love that aspect of like just showing that they are still working. A lot of them are still working, need a job,
and it's just a great thing to share with your dog. So it's almost like, a hobby. So it's an occupation, an activity that you do with your dog, and build that, and then build memories. You could do agility or doggy dancing, but it's about practice, it's about discipline, it's about doing things regularly with your dog, for your dog, together.
Which is very important. We had that conversation about how important training in general and like consistency and just repeating things with the dog is, but also, like you said, the bonds between, and Marcel and I used to do agility when he was younger, before he had his spinal issue, and loved it, and I'm actually missing that. We did a bit of it, but without the high impact stuff that we can't do anymore, obviously, because of his back. But the bond between you, it's just an amazing thing to have, activities together. And just, he's the one who inspired me to do my photography and everything. So like, it's just increased that bond better that band, so it's lovely.
I love all that. I didn't know you did agility with him, but that's great. It really is. It's brilliant. But and I love it that he's inspired your photography, which isn't all about dogs now, is it? You do a lot of human photographs.
So I do, and that's inspired by him. I do a lot of, my main thing is wedding photography and family photography, but I tend to, because of him, and my love of dogs in general, I tend to focus on people who love dogs. So most of the couples I photograph who are getting married have dogs or love dogs. Want them sometimes involved with their weddings when it's possible, because it's not always ideal for a dog to be involved with the whole day or just parts of the day. It's he's inspired me to do that, and I do capture. Obviously, I tend to have the and I put it in a jokey way, just the way I do on his social media, where I say it's for dogs and they're well-behaved humans. It's just to put a spin on that thing about, well-behaved dogs being welcome to places. But actually, most of the time, the issue when there is one isn't really the dog. It's mostly the human that haven't been training the dog, or the dog that has trained the human because the human has let them do that. But so I do my photography is based on that. I just, generally speaking, I find like people who love dogs, they're decent people, and who treat them like family. They're decent. They're very good people usually. So I need to have that connection in my photography as well, like I do on social media with his account. And that's very important to me, and I find that usually that connection is there when someone loves dogs and we've got things to talk about. And
oh no, I love that, and that does make sense completely. And I have to say, you've championed social media, and I'm in awe basically. So that's something I hope you're going to continue, and we've had a bit of chat on social media today, which I thank you very much for all that. Now, Aurélie, you made such a good point in the exhibition about rescue dogs and how they make great pets.
Absolutely. So, and there's a bit of a cliche thing about rescue dogs being problematic dogs. They're not always. There's lots of circumstances that mean that those dogs are in need of a new home. Some of them have behavior issues, but it's really not the majority. And I've worked with charities. I've photographed dogs for charities. And I know for a fact, so Marcel comes from a breeder, but knowing what I know now, having learned what I know now, having worked and volunteered for charities, I'm definitely hoping that our next one is going to be a rescue dog. And actually, even if you're very specific, want a special breeds, a lot of them are in rescue. You can find purebred dogs in rescues as well, if that's what you're after. And including in this country now, because there's so many dogs that are being abandoned following the pandemic and people going back to work or realizing that they can be hard work. There's such I don't think I could do without a dog, but they're very rewarding, but they're obviously also hard work. So, yeah.
You make such a good point there that dogs are hard work, and I think that's been the problem. People have underestimated completely how much hard work and the true commitment that a dog is. And it's a worrying trend for me that dogs are accessories, which is a terrible shame. But we've got a charity in common as well, because you've photographed Wild at Heart Foundation, haven't you, for one of their calendars?
That's correct. So a few years ago, it's actually in 2020, for the 2021 calendar, I volunteered to photograph the Hot Dogs calendar, which is dogs from the charity that benefits from the calendar sales, wearing couture hats by some very famous milliners, very talented milliners for a calendar. So I volunteered to do that for the Wild at Heart Foundation.
Oh, yeah, and I've just become an ambassador for Wild at Heart, which I'm very proud to be. And I love the work that Nikki's been doing over the years. But it's interesting, at the moment, Nikki isn't bringing dogs in from abroad due to the huge amount of dogs that are in rescue in the UK.
That's correct. So I've been to some events recently by the foundation, and I've heard of this, and I think this is very commendable, because obviously there's dogs in need all over the world, and they carry on helping those. But bringing in more dogs when there are so many in need in this country who are going to be put to sleep if they don't find a new home, I think it's a very commendable thing to do from a charity, rather than bringing in more and adding to the issue, basically.
Absolutely, and I think she's working as partners with a lot of animal welfare agencies all over, from India, China, Australia, Chile, the South Americas, all over, to offer support educationally and financially as well to individual dogs, which is great. Yeah, so Aurélie, what's your New Year's resolution going to be?
Oh, so I think I'm going to be the New Year's resolution. I don't usually have many, but if anything, I'll listen to my own advice through Marcel's social media, which is So my own advice through Marcel's social media, which I say jokingly, I often jokingly make him say that life is short, like his legs, and so to encourage people to enjoy it more and live in the moment. And this is really something that dogs encourage you and inspire me to do, and Marcel does. So I'm going to try to do more of that, do more of what I love, which is likely going to involve travel, photography, and dogs. And actually starting in the new year very early with that. But also just live in the moment, just, enjoy those little moments in the woods, walking around with him, just letting him sniff around, even if it takes ages sometimes, because that's something they do as they're getting older. But I think if anything, the resolution would be to live more in the moment and make memories, yes.
So Aurélie, all the links are going to be in the show notes, and I really would love to catch up once you're back from America.
Yeah, definitely will do that, and have, hopefully, like I was just telling you, I love to encourage people to include their dogs in their lives, in their photographs as well, but get in the photos themselves, because that's very important for the memories later on, and immediately as well, actually. And also encourage more through social media posts, and my photography encourage more businesses to welcome dogs. So, I'll be looking forward to that.
Thank you so much, Aurélie. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
That's our show, Mr. Binks. What did you think? Yes, I know you're excited about possibly being photographed by Aurélie. And you're right, it is time for Woof of the Week. Please remember how important it is to capture those moments in photography so that when that day comes, you can look back and remember all of those good times. Well, I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, go on, rate and review the show wherever you listen to your podcasts, because it really makes a difference. Thanks again, of course, to Aurélie for joining us today, and all the links are in the show notes. Thanks again to Mike, my producer, for all the music and the production as ever. What's that, Mr. Binks? Yes, you're right. We will be back in your feed next Sunday. So why don't you subscribe? Because that way you'll never miss another show. Bye for now.